Um, I'd say I always thought it was the odd bad apple, you know. I always thought if you got into trouble with the police or you had an issue with the police or anybody that slated the police, it was because they'd done something and they just had like a vendetta against them. I believe the stereotypes that the police are there to serve and protect, and if anything bad happens, you go to the police. I'd say I knew there was issues in the police, but not to the extent that I know now. I think my views on UK policing was heavily influenced by what you see in the mainstream media, and the reality I found is the complete opposite. The thing is, if you report a crime and it's a regular civilian that commits that crime, you know, you can ring 999 and call the police to report that crime. But where do you go when the people committing the crime is the police? And that's the problem that I found. Like, where do you go when it's the police abusing their powers? Because what I found was everybody closes ranks, not just the police. Cross-funding, multi-agency partnerships, there's no one. I have contacted every charity you can think of, try to access support from any organisation. I wrote to the Conservative administration when it first happened. I wrote to the current Labour administration, and nobody wants to know. You go up against the police, you are on your own. Despite the rhetoric, violence against women and girls initiatives, they're absolutely nothing. They're just words that people sprout out. There is nothing behind them. The only person I feel like I can trust is myself. And regardless of any complaints procedures or any official avenues that you can go through, they literally control every element. They have an influence everywhere, including the mainstream media. But there's one thing that they can't control, is me. And they can't control and silence my voice, because that's the only thing I've got control over. And that's my biggest asset, and that's what's keeping me safe. The more I speak out, the safer I am. There has been retaliation for speaking out. I have no history of mental health, but the cover-up actually started at Pendleton police station where I was abused. Greater Manchester Police applied 3 sections, a 136, which in my opinion was incorrectly applied. A 136 section is the police power, and it allows the police to take you to a place of safety. Technically, I was in a place of safety because I was in a police station, so that section should not have been applied. That section was applied after the first hour that I was abused. They then called in mental health professionals who did not see me in person, because Greater Manchester Police told them I was extremely violent and extremely volatile. Footage of my time in custody is available in the public domain. I am anything but violent. My behaviour is in line with that of somebody under the influence of date rape drug. My behaviour is in line with somebody that has just been through a hell of a lot of trauma. After the section 2, where I weren't seen in person, they extended the 136 section again. And I believe that was done to keep me there for over 40 hours so they could get rid of the traces of the date rape drug. They branded me psychotic, and I would like everybody, if you can, to Google Zayna Iman and the Mail Online article from September 2024, where you will see cell footage. There's a video there that's 3 minutes and 36 seconds long that shows a few seconds of every hour I was in custody. So I was high at home. For some reason, I've become unconscious when I arrive in the cell and I'm being stripped naked. I'm put in a pair of oversized shorts. I then come round and I'm sober for a period of 4 to 5 hours. Just before the first hour cuts out, the officer that I'm talking to at the door agitates me, so I spilled a cup of coffee. The footage goes blank. And when it comes back on an hour later, I'm acting hypersexual and I'm no longer dressed. Sexual behaviour, they called psychosis. And I believe they did that was to ensure nobody would ever believe me. But luckily, people have. But I had to release degrading footage of myself into the public domain, waive my right to anonymity, campaign and tell my story across platforms, update people on a regular basis, put myself out there in ways that nobody should have to put themselves out to be believed. And I would say the vast majority of people believe that I'm telling the truth. Because what are the chances of the very footage you allege would show rape accidentally getting lost? Bearing in mind I was detained for a period of over 40 hours. So over 2 days and 2 separate hours go missing. 10 a.m. on day 1 and 1 p.m. on day 2. This very footage existed and was viewed by 13 different officers. I have 13 people on record from Greater Manchester Police claiming that the footage existed. I've got the Deputy Mayor, Kate Green, admitting that that footage existed. I've got the former Deputy Mayor, Beverly Hughes, admitting that footage existed. I've got Andy Burnham admitting that Greater Manchester Police have told too many different variations for the reason why that footage isn't available now.
Since to say, well, put the invitation to me on that letter, which then that was the meeting that happened a couple of weeks ago. And in the course of that meeting, you shared stuff that I'd not seen before, and
additional footage. Okay.
And explained things from your perspective that actually kind of made me, I think, see things more clearly than I have done before, and actually kind of present a thing that just doesn't add up. Actually, there's something doesn't add up, basically. And then if you put alongside that all of the issues around footage, identities of people, there's lots of other things, and if you start to add it all, you think, hang on, there's something really just not right here.
I've got Dame Vera Baird, who did the public review into Greater Manchester Police, saying, yes, of course that footage existed, for it now not to exist. So I'm going to repeat 2 hours over 2 days, so 2 separate hours over 2 days have existed, become exempt, have been viewed by 13 different people, got accidentally corrupted, and now are accidentally lost. In this day and age, it is physically impossible to lose footage. It is everything that is digital is retrievable, But Greater Manchester Police, the second biggest police force in England, have accidentally lost 2 hours worth of footage despite having a multi-million-pound system that is run by ADT. Where are the backups? Where's the online iCloud drive? It's lies. I'm openly going to say Greater Manchester Police have that footage. They just will not give that footage because they know what's on that footage. And I know what's on that footage. Now, people always say, I am alleging, but I want to make it very clear, I am not alleging. I am actively saying that at some point during my detainment with Greater Manchester Police, I was drugged and sexually assaulted. I sit here at the 55-month mark. That's over 4.5 years. And those officers are still serving. If they're still serving, they're still abusing. We all think that it won't happen to us until it does. I was one of those people. Every so-called independent investigation into Greater Manchester Police became an investigation into me. I have data that shows that the IOPC had me under surveillance. The IOPC are the police watchdog. They're meant to investigate police misconduct. They had me surveillanced. I have the data and it's available on my social media. I had Dame Vera Baird, a woman that was employed by the Mayor and the Police and Crime Commissioner for Greater Manchester and Greater Manchester Police, Andy Burnham. He asked Dame Vera Baird to do a public review into Greater Manchester Police after I released my footage. And I told my story to the media, which went viral in 2023. But Dame Vera Baird asked Greater Manchester Police to surveillance me. So reporting Greater Manchester Police officers led to me being surveillanced by GMP, Dame Vera Baird, the IOPC, and right up until 2024, those surveillancing was still in operation. Whether they're still in operation now, I don't know. The last known data that I've got is up until 2024, they were surveillancing me. Why? What have I done wrong? You know? And this is what happens if you go up against any government body. You use their systems to try and get accountability, their complaint system, and become a complainant. They're not going to investigate the complaint. They're coming for you. Why would I be lying when I'm saying that I was sexually assaulted? And why would I be the one that's asking for that footage? Why will they not give the footage if they're the innocent ones? They could discredit me easily, you know? Why haven't they? 4.5 years I've been fighting for that footage, and 4.5 years they won't give it. Why? Why? I'm not an isolated case, and I can't stress that enough. I'm the only case that has managed to get their case in the public domain. I'm not the only case. This isn't a brown girl problem either. This is affecting men and women of all ages, of all colours. And I know because I get the messages. Not everybody's in a position where they can speak out. I lost a lot when I decided to speak out. I remember, I think it was April 2021 when I spoke out. My family came to see me and we were just sat in the car. You know, it was my mum, my brothers. You just do not talk to Asian dads about sexual stuff. And they asked me to get out the car and they drove off. I still decided to speak, and I do not regret it. I don't regret it. But I'm from a South Asian background. I am from a Muslim background. Whether I subscribe to the culture or religion is irrelevant. What I am doing is not the done thing, right? So ask yourself why I would release the type of footage that I have, make the type of claims that I have, lose literally everything to lie. There's easy ways to get attention, you know? And it's because I don't want anybody to experience what I did. And like I said, what happened to me is happening on a much bigger scale. People just can't come forward or don't want to come forward. I know how lucky I am to be sat here right now. I genuinely don't believe I was meant to make it out of that station. 2 white males 2 friends turned up at the 38-hour mark, and within a couple of hours they shipped me off to a psychiatric unit, high on date rape drugs, claiming psychosis. Had them 2 white males not turned up, I would not have made it out there. I know grown-ass men haven't made it out there, and I feel at times I said to my friends, I fucking hate you two. Why the fuck did you turn up? It would have been easy if I had gone in there. I wouldn't have had to see life for what it was, you know, like I see beyond the illusions, like everything we're taught is a lie, you know, the police don't protect. They don't keep you safe. They cause more harm than they do good. They commit the crimes, and I'll go as far as saying they're a state-sanctioned gang, you know. They get away with the most obscene things, and yeah, they might release the odd officer, but I genuinely believe that is purely for optics, you know. I've been trying for 4.5 years. I know the names and they are still serving. Explain to me why, you know. I genuinely do believe that I was meant to be in custody based on the memory recall I've got, and I feel like I was given another chance, and at one point I hated that. I hated him. I hated my friend Terry for turning up, because I said if I had gone in there, it was done, it was over. And I do remember at one point making peace with the fact it's okay, it's going to be over soon, because they were plying me with drugs. And I remember I was getting higher and higher and higher, and my heartbeat was so high. And I just kind of made peace with it. When I arrived in hospital, that's one of the first things I did. They gave me an ECG to check the abnormality because my breathing was really heavy. But I wasn't meant to. I got out of Pendleton, and then I got out of the psych ward, and like the state that I arrived in that psych ward, I should not have made it out. I mean, if I was a mental health professional looking at the state that I was in, I would have jabbed me up and medicated me to the eyeballs, you know, because I couldn't explain what had happened. I knew what was happening, and up here I was the sanest I'd ever been, but I couldn't communicate. Like my bodily functions weren't doing what my brain was telling them to do because of how intoxicated I was. But I'm not religious. I don't really believe in anything. I believe there's something out there. What that something is, I don't know. God, Jesus, Allah, universe, angels, whatever. Don't know. But there's a reason why I made it out of Pendleton against the odds. It feels like dreams, hopes, ambitions, there isn't any. I am happy. I am happy in general. But this little part of me, it's like this dark cloud, and I've got to like keep at it. But I don't know why I've got to keep at it. I mean, in my darkest time now, I remember saying it to him. I said to him, "Do you love me?" And he goes, "Of course I do." I says, "Will you do anything for me?" And he said, "Yeah, of course, you know, well, I'll always look after you. I promised you I'd help you for as long as you need, right?" And I said, and I weren't depressed. I was not depressed. I just had enough. I didn't like the world. I didn't like the people in it. I didn't like I couldn't unsee what I've seen, and nobody understood and nobody got it. It's like somebody had lifted this veil, and I saw life for what it was, and I was done. I weren't depressed, I was just done. I said to him, "Well, if you love me, help me end it. I don't want to be here anymore." He said, when I was like no longer, I'm back in like kick-ass fight mode now, but he said, I used to be scared to walk through the door because I didn't know if I'd like kind of turn up to you being, you know, I can't let them get away what they've put me through, you know.